Yeah, she's alright. Now, fuck you, dude, she's alright. Like, what do you mean just alright? I couldn't quite follow, because in my eyes, she had real sex bomb potential. Short, brunette, great body, gym thick, you might call her. Like, her assets are clearly insane. I mean, I think you get my point. Now, I might have a bit of a crush on her, but that's empirically unconfirmed at this date and time. But that aside, I'm definitely sexually attracted to this girl who goes to my gym. And my friend just looked at her and thought she was alright. Now, the discrepancy in attraction between two guys for the same girl is definitely nothing unusual, and the same is true for two girls looking at the same guy. Yet I don't, or rather, I didn't know why. Yeah, of course, objective beauty always has a subjective component. The girl I'm talking about might not be your typical 10 out of 10 girl that every guy would like to propose to on the spot, right? But I want her. And wanting a girl, or a guy, in psychological terms is called sexual desire. And to sexually desire a person, one thing has to be given, which is sexual attraction. Now, sexual attraction essentially is attraction based on sexual desire. Or, in other words, do you want to sleep with this person? Like, it sounds simple at first, but the difference between two people in sexual attraction towards the subject of attraction is based on way more than just objective beauty. I felt like at minimum four layers that underlie the basis of sexual attraction, and it gets really weird pretty quickly. The first layer is the target, the subject of attraction, the girl or guy you're consciously or subconsciously evaluating for sexual attractiveness, which is also called sex appeal, by the way. Like, to make this clear once and for all, sexual attractiveness is not physical attractiveness. Two different things, even though they often overlap. So while there's a lot more behind sexual attractiveness than just physical beauty, it's still inevitably the first thing we have to look at. Because it's inevitably the first thing you look at. Quotes, she's beautiful, she's got a great ass, she's a bombshell. He's sexy, he's tall, he's got a great physique. Right? Like, physical attractiveness is the first thing we assess about a potential partner, mate, or just a one night stand. Because they're right there in front of our eyes. And males and females have different attributes, not always, there are exceptions, that they assign to a typically beautiful person of the opposite sex. And fascinatingly, there's been a fuck ton of research done on this topic, actually. So, to give you a brief overview, here are the most important beauty characteristics for both males and females. Now, male specific factors. Women prefer highly sexual dimorphic faces, as in masculine traits such as a sharp and dominant jawline, symmetrical faces, and clear skin. Waist to chest ratio. Broad shoulders, large chest, thin waist, and most importantly, a flat abdomen. The waist to chest ratio is inherently the single most predictive factor of male attractiveness. Hit the gym, guys. Muscular but not too muscular. So men tend to overestimate the amount of muscle they have to build in order to be the most attractive to women. Women do like muscles, but they generally don't want a roided up bodybuilder. I think that's clear. And for example, facial hair as well. Either clean shaven, light stubble, or something like a mustache goatee. Patchy beards are definitely the least attractive for women. Now to the female specific factors. Men prefer symmetry in the face, full lips, a small chin, higher cheekbones, and clear skin. Like in general, men usually typically prefer younger, even feminine baby face types. Body. Well, breast size is almost surprisingly a pretty small factor in male attraction towards a woman. Then apparently we tend to focus more on the color of the nipples and areolas. Yet for the butt, the rule of thumb is indeed the bigger, the better, the more attractive. Let's get to waist to hip ratio. The female equivalent of the waist to chest ratio, the waist to hip ratio, is basically a large, if not the largest, standout attractiveness factor to males. Small waists and broad hips are the most attractive body type for men, or at least in westernized cultures. Then we've got BMI. Men nowadays prefer thinner women, even though this has fluctuated quite a bit throughout history, but similar to men and muscles, women overestimate how thin they should be for maximum male attractiveness. And to the hair, well, men prefer longer haired women over short haired women. That's basically a general finding. And yeah, I know, I'm aware I sound like an autistic looks maxer right now, but I kind of wanted to point out that physical attractiveness is a field of study and that generalizations can be made about both men and women. And again, generalization is the main point here. Sexual attractiveness does not rely on simply finding the perfect male or female specimen that has all of these perfect qualities. And obviously, this is also a bit of a controversial topic to talk about, reducing men and women simply to their physical attributes. But luckily for all the easily offended people watching, this is only one layer of sexual attractiveness. Important to note is, though, again, objective beauty is important, and in general, the higher your objective physical attractiveness is, the higher your sex appeal will be, and the higher the objective physical beauty of your current gym crush, in general, the more you'll be sexually attracted to her. But it depends. It all depends on you. So while the first layer was about the subject of your attraction, the next layer is about you. As people say, all beauty lies in the eyes of the observer, and the same is true for sexual attraction. At this layer, we're looking at your baseline state. What makes you unique as an individual regarding your sexual preferences, desires, and attraction towards a potential mate? I could make like an entire other video about your baseline sexual attractiveness behavior, but we don't really have the time here. Well, most importantly, in both men and women, sex hormones play a massive role, and in both men and women alike, higher testosterone and estrogen, technically, correlates with a higher sexual baseline desire. Said in other words, a man or woman with higher testosterone is more likely down to fuck. Yeah, this is obviously extremely simplified, cry about it, but what's going on inside your head when you actually see someone attractive? So, when participants were presented with attractive faces, researchers examined their neural activity. And many different brain areas are involved in processing faces, and I won't bore you to death by naming every single one. But one is pretty important, a structure called the orbitofrontal cortex, which plays a role in evaluating faces and overall attractiveness, then released more dopamine when presented with more attractive images of people. Dopamine, obviously, as you all know, equals motivation and desire, in this case, including sexual desire. So, all in all, your brain is rewarding you every time you look at somebody you find sexually attractive, which in itself is pretty fucking cool. Now, besides the hormonal and neurochemical levels, your individual preferences, experiences, attachment patterns, and your type all play a role in who you find sexually attractive. But one psychological theory is especially interesting here. It's called erotic plasticity. So basically, erotic plasticity is your ability to adapt and be open to different sexual experiences and preferences than you might have previously considered. And this doesn't mean that somebody with high erotic plasticity likes to take it up the ass, male or female, even though it can mean that. Erotic plasticity rather describes your openness or likelihood to be sexually attracted to someone who isn't your type. It's like that guy you know who'd literally fuck anything that moves. Now, we all differ in our erotic plasticity level, and it's influenced by which standards, morals, environmental, and societal expectations we grew up with. For example, my friend who looked at the thick chick in the gym doesn't have high erotic plasticity. She was not his type, so he wasn't interested. But another guy for whom she wasn't his type might still say he'd pipe the shit out of her because, why not? High erotic plasticity. So, this one is way too underrated in understanding sexual attraction. Because layer 3, the state layer, describes the physical state you're in when evaluating sexual attractiveness. For example, alcohol. Lowering your inhibitions and making you act emotionally, alcohol can severely influence your sexual attraction towards someone. Your physical state has dramatically changed and your sexual attraction preferences are basically all over the place. A lot of people have made regrettable sexual attraction choices when under the influence. But here's something slightly more interesting. When ovulating, females differ in sexual attraction preferences. They are, for example, more attracted to masculine traits and are hornier in general, to put it as simply as possible. Similarly, though, males can pick up on these cues and are more attracted to females who are currently ovulating. That alone is just fascinating. But I do want to highlight this cherry on the cake concept that I found. It's called the misattribution of arousal theory. And this is the process by which people mistake what is causing them to feel aroused. So, in an experiment, men were instructed to either work out, which led to a general state of bodily arousal. Obviously, this doesn't mean sexual arousal, it just means that your body is in a state of activation. And then they were interviewed by an attractive female. Another group of men didn't work out before being interviewed by this attractive female. So, guess what happened? Of course, the men who were already in a state of general arousal thought the female assistant was significantly more attractive than the men who were in a calm state. So basically, the men mistook their heightened bodily arousal for higher sexual attraction for the female assistant, because general activation and sexual arousal feel pretty similar. And this is basically the core of the misattribution of arousal theory. We can't really tell what caused a state of activation, so we cling to the first obvious sign, an attractive female or male. But the most interesting part, when repeating the experiment, researchers even told the men about this phenomenon. Even though they knew their high sexual attraction was a byproduct of their internal state, they still consistently thought the female assistant was more attractive than any control group. So even if you're aware of the misattribution of arousal, you're still going to fall victim to it. It's also called RFM, response facilitation model, if you're interested. But the point is, a lot of things can cause general heightened arousal. Alcohol, obviously, as I mentioned, working out, fear, general anxiety, social anxiety, group situations. The list is basically endless. So, for your next date, just take a girl to do something exciting or scary, and she might just be falling harder for you because of the misattribution of arousal theory. So far I've tried to keep it rather simple, like no in-depth psychology that's involved with sexual attraction yet. Like Sigmund Freud would be disappointed, but I mean Freud has a point, right? The subconscious plays a gigantic role in sexual attraction and we have to talk about it. Like don't worry too much, I'm not going to go into Freudian psychosexual theory. I mean, did you know that he proposed we're secretly all in love with our opposite sex parents and we want to murder our same sex parent so that we can then be with our opposite sex parent? I mean, he's a fucking lunatic after all. But one unconscious factor of sexual attraction relates to our olfactory system, aka smell. For example, women aren't only more attracted to the sweat of more attractive men, they can literally predict fluctuating asymmetry, which means they instinctively predict, through smell, how facially attractive or symmetrical a man is. Like, that's wild, just by smell. Males, well, we don't do so well with smell and facial symmetry, but we do unconsciously know when a female is at the highest fertility in a cycle, again, when she's ovulating, and this does manifest in higher sexual attraction towards ovulating women. That at least is partly theorized to be a byproduct of sex pheromones, while it's still debated how large the impact of human sex pheromones is, or even whether they exist in the first place, which is a bit complicated, but you know. So, while smell is an important but still debated topic around sexual attractiveness, psychology itself offers some answers to other important questions, as in, why are we sexually attracted to beauty in the first place? This goes back to layer one, and I think the answer can be pretty simple if you think about it. Evolutionary psychology suggests that the typical attributes of a physically attractive male or female indicate good health and fertility, and therefore result in greater sexual attractiveness. Makes sense, right? For example, women with a low waist to hip ratio, which is generally more sexual appealing, to this date have significantly higher pregnancy rates than women with higher waist to hip ratios. And similarly, the male chest slash shoulder to waist ratio indicates high signs of dominance, protection, and resources, status basically. Long haired women are more attractive because long hair is a sign of long term physical health. And larger gynoid fat stores in breasts and butts are evolutionarily attractive because they show a woman has resources to take good care of potential children. And you can see where this is going. A lot of Evo psychology is focused on physical attractiveness. And essentially, it says in order to display our health and fertility markers to potential mates and to compete intrasexually as well, We continually develop more attractive assets correlated with strength, fertility, health, and more, like broader shoulders or larger asses. And these traits are then selected for by the opposite sex, so the genes for broad shoulders and large asses are passed on. And sexual attraction towards these assets is the psychological driver that Mother Nature bestowed upon us to select the best overall mate. Like, this is basic Darwin type shit. Another interesting question psychology answers is, why is sexual attraction so powerful in selecting a mate? Like, you might agree with the Darwin idea, right? Like, evolutionarily, health and fertility indicators were most important in mate selection. But, like, we're also rational, right? Like, at least to some extent, we must be able to place greater importance on someone's personality as well, especially if we're looking for a long-term mate. I mean, are they fun to be around? Are they social? Are they intelligent? Are they interesting? And this is where the halo effect comes in. Most people think that the halo effect means just more attractive people have easier lives. Their looks grant them better job positions, they earn more, they're more accepted and respected socially. I mean, this is true, but it's definitely not all. The halo effect directly influences and will always influence your perception of a potential partner. I mean, let me demonstrate with an easy example. You've got an attractive, funny girl slash guy versus an unattractive, funny girl slash guy. I mean, even though their humor can be the exact same, you will consistently think the attractive guy or girl is indeed funnier, by a margin, than the unattractive guy or girl. And this has massive implications for sexual attraction. Once you're hooked on the physical, rationally evaluating the personality traits of your potential mate is basically impossible. I mean, you're wearing rose colored glasses from the start, right? The halo effect is also called physical attractiveness stereotype, and it's deeply rooted in our psychology. Now, the last question, is sexual attraction rooted in childhood? I mean, back to Freud, I guess. We can say that during puberty, most of us develop sexual attraction in some form, but childhood attachment styles, trauma and abuse, so called daddy issues, the notion of taboo and dirty sex fantasies, and a general societal upbringing can have massive impacts on our sexual attraction preferences from birth onwards. And I basically just can't cover everything here, nor do I know enough about the topic. All I can say is, like, our individual psychologies are, after all, individual, and there is no definitive answer to, is this or that girl slash guy more sexually attractive? The answer is, as always, it depends. I mean, one more thing though, sexual attraction does not mean that we act on sexual attraction. We don't act on our impulses all of the time, obviously. Sexual attraction can lead to sexual desire, like you want to act on your sexual attraction towards someone, and then sexual arousal. You're preparing to have sex, basically. But more often than not, we don't act on sexual attraction. That would be quite counterproductive indeed. It's important to point out that our sexual attraction to someone can be pretty much unstable as well. Like, for example, I might be sexually attracted to the thick chick from my gym, but if I learn about some no go character trait, that might influence my sexual attraction. Or if my friend learns about some positive character trait of hers, he might be more sexually attracted to her than he was in the first place. It always depends. But consciously and definitively, I can say I'm attracted to this gym girl right now because she fits all four layers of sexual attraction. The target layer, she's objectively physically attractive, particularly her body. The perceiver layer, I'm easily attracted to the physical stimuli of girls' bodies. Who isn't? State layer, in the gym, I'm physically in a high arousal state. Potentially my preference for gym girls in general is just a large misattribution of arousal problem. Who knows? And for layer 4, the deeper psychology, obviously she's displaying high cues of fertility and health with her body. The halo effect is probably already taking place, and I'm more psychologically attuned to short-term mating at the moment, making it likely I'm more influenced by physical attractiveness. But, in any case, I hope you found this topic as interesting as I did, and I hope I did a somewhat good job at converting it to you. And hopefully you learned a thing or two. So see you all next week, you objectively sexually attractive fuckers.